My name is Hermanus, and my soul was trapped within the walls of St. Cuthbert's Abbey. Our monastery, with its grey stones and shadowy corridors, seemed a safe haven for the faithful. But even the most solid stones can harbour dark secrets. It was a stormy night, and the wind howled like a hungry wolf. The candles in the chapel flickered like restless souls. I, a young priest, full of fervour, was kneeling before the altar, reciting my prayers, but my thoughts were not on God. They were on the mysterious Elena, the blacksmith's daughter. Elena was a dark-haired beauty with eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of the universe. We were madly in love. One night fate wanted us to meet in the forest under the full moon, and our lips brushed in a forbidden kiss. It was then that doubt took hold of me. Was love a sin? Was desire a betrayal of my faith? The rain was falling on us, and Elena looked at me with eyes full of mystery. "Hermanus," she whispered, "there is more to this world than we are taught in church. There are forces we cannot comprehend." Her words echoed in my soul like broken bells. His words at the time did not dent me, and I passionately defended my devotion and faith, but something in me was changing. Doubt led me to the darkest corners of the monastery library. There, among dusty tomes and forgotten parchments, I found an ancient manuscript. Its pages were yellowed, and its letters seemed to dance with a life of their own. It was a grimoire, a book of spells and incantations. My fingers trembled as I opened it. The Latin words seemed to whisper in my mind, tempting me with promises of forbidden knowledge. There in the gloom, I learned the secrets of the Black Mass. The rituals were chilling and seductive. Red candles, myrrh, incense, and forbidden words echoed in my mind like a siren song, summoning the devil, sealing blood pacts, defying God himself. All were within my grasp. In the darkness of my cell, I traced the magic circle with chalk and lit the candles. The air became thick, and a shadowy figure appeared before me. Belial, the fallen angel, appeared before me, clouding my fervour and my faith. My vanity made me feel like a true and worthy servant of the Dark One, and when he offered me power and knowledge in exchange for my loyalty, I could not resist. My heart beat like a maddened drum as he spoke the words of a pact that would seal my fate. The rain continued to fall like tears from the sky. Belial smiled, his eyes burning with a hellish light. "Hermanus," he whispered to me, "your soul now belongs to me. You have crossed the threshold into darkness." He said to me, "Thus began my descent into heresy. My love for Elena had led me into an abyss of secrets and betrayals. The storm roared with fury, as if the sky itself was lamenting my fall from grace. In my cell, illuminated only by the dim candlelight, I was torn between terror and euphoria. My pact with Belial had opened the doors to a world of shadows and secrets, a world that promised power and knowledge, but at a chilling price. I looked in the mirror, and what I saw filled me with horror. My eyes, once filled with religious fervour, now shone with a sinister light. I had become a servant of the devil, a soul in pain, trapped in a whirlwind of darkness. The following days passed like a nightmare. I continued with my priestly duties, but my mind was far away. Lost in the forbidden grimoires, I consulted in the library. My prayers had become supplications to infernal entities, and my heart had hardened before the suffering of others. One day, while I was officiating a mass, I felt a strange presence in the chapel. A dark shadow seemed to be watching me from the rafters of the ceiling, its red eyes glowing like embers. A shiver ran down my spine, and I knew I was not alone. Belial was watching me, waiting for the right moment to take his toll. on the night of the winter equinox. I met with other brothers whom I convinced to form a brotherhood of satanic worship, and we gathered in the catacombs of the monastery. Under the light of the full moon, we performed a gruesome ritual, sacrificing a black goat and chanting blasphemous chants. At that moment I felt a surge of power coursing through his body, but also a deep sense of emptiness and desolation. At dawn I returned to my cell, exhausted but exultant. I had fulfilled my part of the pact, and now Belial would grant me my desires for knowledge and power. But what I didn't know was that the devil always takes a higher toll than it seems. The shadow of doubt had become an impenetrable darkness, and I was about to descend into the depths of hell, dragged down by my own ambition and despair. Darkness loomed over me as I moved deeper into the forest, following Belial's directions. The branches creaked under my feet, and the wind hissed like a whale. Elena, the woman I loved, was tied to a tree, her eyes full of fear and despair. The other siblings of the ritual waited in the gloom. Their faces were hidden by black hoods, and their souls seemed as corrupted as mine. Belial had been clear. The flesh would be the ultimate test. The woman he loved would be the link between the earthly world and the infernal. The magic circle was traced in the earth, its ancient symbols glowing with a sinister light. Red candles surrounded Elena, and myrrh incense filled the air. The men approached, their gazes hungry and thirsty. I, Hermanus, the fallen priest, trembled with horror and desire at the scene. Belial appeared, like a shadowy figure shrouded in smoke. "Hermanus," he whispered, "the flesh is weak, but it is also powerful. Share Elena with your brothers, and your soul will be ours forever." The men pounced on Elena like hungry wolves. Their hands tore at her, and their bodies melted in a dance of lust and sin. Moans and screams mingled with hellish chants. I, caught between horror and excitement, joined them. Elena, the woman I loved, was defiled on the altar of Belial. Her tears mingled with blood, and her soul was torn asunder. Men took her again and again, and I sank into darkness. Dawn came like a divine judgment. Light filtered through the cracks of my cell, and I lay on the stone floor, exhausted and full of regret. The scent of incense and blood still permeated. My senses and images of the satanic orgy writhed in my mind like poisonous snakes. Elena, the woman I loved, had been the center of that blasphemous ritual. Her eyes, once filled with mystery and desire, now reflected horror and betrayal. We had shared her among several men, as if we were beasts, and now I was permeated with desolation and guilt. Guilt ate at me like a worm devouring my soul. I had crossed the threshold into darkness, and now I was caught in a web of secrets and betrayals. Satanic rituals had become my daily bread, and lust and blood were my closest companions. But Elena was my last thread of humanity. Her eyes, once filled with mystery and desire, now reflected horror and despair. We had shared our bodies in rituals, giving ourselves over to lust and depravity, but she also knew there was no turning back. One day, while the other brothers were indulging in the ecstasy of the flesh, I met the Inquisitor in the confessional. His gaze was implacable, his eyes like needles probing my soul. Without thinking, I told him all about Belial and the rituals of the Black Mass. Somehow I knew that my confession would be my death sentence, that my fate was sealed. What had I gained from all this? Forbidden knowledge, power, lust, all had turned to ashes in my mouth. The bonfire awaited me, and the devil would laugh from the shadows. Elena looked at me one last time, her eyes filled with tears. "Hermanus, what have we done?" she whispered. But there were no answers, only the certainty that my betrayal of God would be my undoing. Thus my soul was caught between faith and heresy, between light and darkness. Confession became my last act of despair, and as the flames of the stake licked my skin, I knew I had chosen my own hell.